Rule number one, the first thing that happens when you have contact with the police is they're going to try to determine if you're going to pass the attitude test. The attitude test means you respond to their questions appropriately, that you talk to them about what your situation is, what's going on. When they ask you questions, that you give them answers. If you don't pass the attitude test, first thing is going to happen is they're going to start putting their hands on their gun, or they're going to start handcuffing you, or start moving you around, or putting you in a patrol car. Rule number one at the police is you got to pass the attitude test. So when they come up to you and ask you a question, that's not a time for you to tell them about how many rights you have, and you do have rights. But the appropriate time for you to exercise your rights is in a courtroom, not on the street with the police.
Yeah, man.
What's up with your car, man? Didn't it get towed?
Yeah, man, that's gonna be like $200, man.
You wanna borrow $200, man? Hey, man,
yeah,
that's your lawyer right here, though?
Oh, excuse me, man. Keith, I gotta talk to you. Are you my lawyer, right?
Who are you?
I'm Fabio.
Fabio, I'm Ken Walker. What's up?
Well, you know how we're gonna have to go to court and that
Charges, because
yeah.
you got charged with robbery, major 11 and assault.
What?
Oh, yeah, how the cop pulled me over, man. I didn't like that, cause.
Tell me what happened out there.
Cause how, yeah, the cop pulled me over and he told me to get out of the car. Told me he was gonna search the car.
Were you answering his questions when he asked you?
Nah.
Why not?
Because I didn't like him.
No, you gotta answer the questions of the cop. Your rights we can talk about in the courtroom, but on the street you gotta answer the questions.
Don't he got rights though?
He has rights, and his rights will come out in the courtroom. Here's my card. You give me a call and we'll talk about it.
All right, man.
All right, hang in there.
You have rights, but your rights are not in the streets, but in the court of law. There's a process to dealing with police misconduct.
My name is Bobby Jones, and recently I had a negative experience with the police, and I'm going to illustrate what happened, or at least discuss. I was driving home after my last day of college. I attended Western Oregon University. It was my freshman year, and I was driving home, and I was visiting one of my friend's houses, and he lives in a nice area over by the Grant neighborhood, and a police officer pulled behind me while I was making a turn into right off 33rd, and they followed me for about 6 or 7 blocks. They never turned their lights, and I pulled over in front of my friend's house. I got out, I walked into his driveway, and the police proceeded to circle around my car and then turn their sirens. So I was about halfway up the driveway. I turned around and I walked back and asked the officers what was going on. And the first thing they did was tell me to put my hands on my head, and they flashed the big car light on me and told me to get down on my knees, so I did that. And then they patted me down, and they told me to get in my car, and the whole time I was asking them what was going on, why were they doing this, and they told me they never gave me any explanation. So they took my license and they ran it through, and then once nothing came back, they tried to hand it back to me and just leave, and I asked for the officer's badge number, which he wasn't very willing to give up, but I had to coax him into giving it up. So he gave me his badge number, and I called the sergeant. Me and my mom sat down, wrote a letter to the police chief, and hopefully we'll have a mediation with the officer herself in a couple of weeks. My advice is when you go up against people with physical force, to use mental fortitude. That's your best option, or you will be hurt.
Unfortunately, there's no recourse on the street. There's absolutely nothing you can do that's going to convince that police officer that day that you're right and he's wrong. The only recourse that you have is to get an attorney after the matter's over. You've got to take your case to a lawyer and say what happened. If you've got witnesses, that's great. Videotapes, as you know, are very good, but that's unlikely. So the reality is that if you think that the police have violated some of your statutory or constitutional rights, you can find a lawyer. In the Yellow Pages, there are at least 100 lawyers that advertise they do free consultation, and they'll all talk with you free about the police violating some of your rights.
Write down the officer's name, write down the date, the time, and then follow through with the officer supervisor if you're not satisfied.
Remember, it only takes seconds for a police situation to escalate. It's up to you.